Hello everyone, so this creator claims to have found a mistake in our Bible. Let's see it.
All right, let's see it.
First of all, how can some people be this ignorant, not even to do some research and just call something out? John 4:24. God is spirit, and those who worship him must worship the Spirit in truth.
So two things here. The first is that this creator is either quoting this passage from memory and not getting it exactly right, or intentionally misquoting it. It doesn't say they must worship the Spirit in truth. It says they must worship in spirit and truth, which is a very slight difference, but is going to become significant when this creator tries to interpret this passage. Second problem is that to try to overcome the assertion of a disagreement between a passage in Genesis and a passage in John, this creator is only quoting another passage in John, as if to say Genesis can't disagree with John because John agrees with John. And the only way this makes any sense at all is if you presuppose univocality. And what that means to presuppose univocality is to presuppose that every last verse of the Bible agrees with every other last verse of the Bible. The Bible must speak from a single unified and consistent perspective and with a single unified and consistent voice. And there are no data that support that assumption. It is something that is imposed upon the text. And here the idea is to say Genesis can't disagree with John because John agrees with John. And if we presuppose univocality, we must then force Genesis to agree with John. Notice it's not, we must force John to agree with Genesis because John is already agreeing with the dogma that has been inherited down through this Christian tradition. So anything that disagrees with that dogma has to be reinterpreted. But let's see how this creator goes about that.
This shows that God is a spirit filled with brightness and holiness, and no one has ever seen him.
So John 4:24 actually doesn't show any single one of these things, not even that God is a spirit, because the text is not saying that. The text is a qualitative predicate nominative. It says God is spirit. It's attributing adjectively a quality to God. And the exact same author in the chapter just before attributes adjectively the exact same quality to certain humans. Jesus is talking with Nicodemus, and in verse 5 he tells Nicodemus, unless a person is born of water and the Spirit, they cannot enter the kingdom of heaven. In verse 6, Jesus says, that which is born of flesh is flesh, that which is born of spirit is spirit. So those who are born of spirit and can enter the kingdom of God are spirit. It's the exact same qualitative predicate nominative, attributing adjectively the exact same quality to humans who are baptized, who are followers of Jesus. So the text is not suggesting that God is an immaterial phantasm that no one has ever seen. The text is just saying God is spirit, and the same text says that humans can be spirit as well.
Then how come Jacob seen him? Jacob, the son of Abraham, didn't see God itself. He saw Yeshua, the incarnation of God, the Spirit in flesh, the Son of God.
So this is a claim that can only be asserted. It can't be demonstrated anywhere in the Hebrew Bible or even in the New Testament. It is something that arises from, 1, the presupposition of univocality, and 2, the prioritization of the New Testament notion that no one can see God. So we are thus then forced to find a way to reinterpret the passages that say a bunch of people have seen God so that they agree with the text that we have given priority. So that's something that happened within early Christianity. We see it, for instance, in Justin Martyr identifying Jesus as the angel of the Lord, who appears to a number of people and who self-identifies as God themselves when appearing to Moses, for instance, in Exodus 3. And if you want a scholarly explanation for what's going on there, you can see my book, Adonai's Divine Images, A Cognitive Approach, which is an open access book, so you can freely access the PDF online, and there's a link in the link tree in my bio.
No one has seen God in his spirit form, but we saw him in his incarnation. So no, there's no mistake in the Holy Bible.
This is really tautologous and fallacious because this argument requires accepting specific Christian dogmas. So it's really saying, hey, as long as you accept our dogmas, you'll see that our dogmas are right, which is just phenomenally fallacious and is not supported by any data whatsoever. But this is a central feature of apologetics. It is not intended for audiences that don't already agree. These folks are speaking to people who already agree with them, and they're trying to show them that they are justified in their agreement. That's why the agreement is contingent upon already accepting other dogmas that are connected with that agreement, because the argument cannot work at all unless one accepts all of these other dogmas. And the other feature of apologetics is that it's not trying to demonstrate anything. It's not trying to show it's probable or even plausible. All it has to do is gin up the tiniest little sliver of not impossible. And as long as you can show, hey, if we can imagine a scenario where this works, that's good enough, which is one of the strongest indications that they're not preaching to people who don't already agree. They're preaching to people who are saying, I agree, give me the tiniest little sliver of not impossible to hold on to so I feel justified in agreeing.